Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Tea Time with Ayak. We don't always drink tea, but honey, we spill tea, and today we're spilling that tea. I'm gonna tell you about what it's like to start and run a business in Nigeria. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that I haven't shared this as much as I should on YouTube, but I actually am a full-time entrepreneur and content creator. I run a cosmetics line called BlushKrush Cosmetics. We are a vegan, friendly, cruelty-free cosmetics line that focuses on lipsticks, lip glosses, I almost said eyelighters, as if I'm Yoruba, highlighters, eyeshadows, eyeliners, generally accessory to the full makeup look. One day we hope and trust God that we're gonna get into foundation and face products, but right now we working with those items. First and foremost, when it comes to finances, I notice a lot of people who tell their struggles with entrepreneurship, it's finances has a lot to do with it. So when I first started this business, I did not have a business account. Anytime anyone placed an order, the money came straight into my account, my personal account. Yes, my personal account. Now, with money coming in from orders and stuff, mixing with my personal finances, it was very difficult for me to differentiate. And a lot of the time, it wasn't really difficult. It was just like, oh, let me just pinch a little bit out. Just a little bit, just a little bit. In the words of Jackie I, like just a little bit. And then a little bit turned into, okay, I'll replace it tomorrow. I'll replace it. I was constantly tempted to touch the money in my account because it was so easy to access it. Another mistake I made was I had too many sales early on. I was trying to find ways to incentivize purchasing products, and I thought that the best way was to have sales in order to get people to make purchases or to buy a lot of products at once. But this is the thing, I didn't make provision for how many sales I was going to do when I was creating the cost or the prices of the products, so I was at a loss a lot of the time. My mind was like, oh no, I just need to make sales. I need to make sales. If I'm selling a highlighter for 4,500 naira, but I'm giving it away for 2K like every 3 weeks, or I'm selling it for 2,000 naira every 2 weeks, then yes, I'm going to be at a loss. Did one too many sales because I was just trying to get people to buy my stuff. Woo. Another thing I struggled with was not keeping track of my stock and my inventory. So whenever someone would order, I'd be like, okay, I got like 50 of those left. Okay, yeah. When someone else would order, I think I got like 40, even though yesterday I just said I had 50. I was not keeping track. There was no documentation. So sometimes when someone would order, they'd be like, okay, can I have an anarchy? I'd be like, oh yeah, sure. Order will be out in 2 days, blah, blah, blah. I go to the stock to check for anarchy, and we don't have anarchy. So how do I not go back and tell this person, oh, we're out of stock? Can I return your money until we come back into stock? That's disorganized. That's not it. If you keep track of your inventory and stock, you most likely will run into those kinds of issues. Okay, another thing I struggled with was spending too much on things that I could have found ways to get around. I invested a lot into marketing and not necessarily into content. So it was lack of prioritization. And that was a mistake that had to come with learning because I needed to see what other makeup brands were doing. Another mistake I made was with marketing. So I know I just said that I put a lot of money into marketing, like online marketing, but not in-person marketing. So let me give you a perfect example. I was not comfortable with telling people about my brand, about my products, especially people that I knew but wasn't super close with. I thought they'd be like, this one is selling makeup. Does she wear makeup? This one, what does she do? I was just talking myself out of selling my market to the people around me. I talked myself out of selling my market to people that I met and spoke to in stores or in cafes and things like that. The thing is that I didn't take every opportunity that I could have to promote my products. And also, I didn't wear makeup that much. I didn't wear my products that much. It's usually when people saw my products on other people, they'd be like, oh my gosh, that's super nice. Where did you get it from? And a few people who eventually ordered my products were like, Ayek, why didn't you tell me you run a cosmetics line? And I'm like, well, I was embarrassed. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think it was good enough. I was just embarrassed. I had some challenges with finding my niche, finding my demographic, finding the people who I know would easily buy the products. My mentality was I need to go for the people who I think have the money, so like aunties and older people and things like that. But then the challenge was they're like, okay, I love what you're doing, Egg, but guess what? I've been using MAC for the past 10 years. I've been using Estee Lauder since I was born. So that's cute, but I'm not gonna buy it. Another area of mistakes I made was in the area of, I don't know if that made sense. Did that make any sense what I just said? Basically, I had a lot of challenges with production. We'd come up with a production schedule and I would not stick to the schedule. Why wouldn't I stick to the schedule? Because I would check finances and finances weren't looking good enough for me to purchase new products. And then in addition to not having the money, I wasn't sticking to the schedule. When money did come around, I'd be like, oh, let's just keep it. You never know. Maybe emergency will come. We don't know when this and this will happen. So a month would go by, 2 months, 3 months would go by. When we eventually would have the money, I would just not put an order in. I would just not produce the product. So there was no consistency, no schedule. If we agree on a schedule, I'll say, okay, you know what, let's do it next month. You know, let's do it next month. Let's do it next month. Let's do it next month. My dear, we're in September. How many years will I be doing? Let's do it next month. Let's do it next month. So the two other places I struggled with were taking the wrong advice from the right people. And what I mean by that is these are people who are well intentioned. They're they're entrepreneurs themselves, or they're just people with strong opinions and people who care about my business and want me to grow, but they just didn't know what they were talking about. Another mistake I made was letting fear get the best of me. I sold myself short very early on in this business, and I also sold God short. What that means is, or what I mean by that is, I'll be like, okay, yeah, we should get retailers. We should have our products in this store and that store, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it might get too big. What if it gets too big? I literally would say to myself, what if this brand gets too big? What if it gets too big? First of all, if it gets too big, then that's more money in the account. That's more impact we're going to be able to make with our community partners. So many wonderful things that happen when BlushKrush gets too big. But I was too afraid. And that's a whole entire confidence issue for another day. But the reality of the situation was I was too afraid of stepping out. It doesn't make sense, right? When you're like, okay, what if this gets too big? Okay, and if it gets too big, is there a law against it? No, but I told myself there was. It's funny looking back on it now, but at the time, it was not funny. And you know, initially when I did some evaluation on how I ran this business for like a year, I wanted to fight myself, like personally attack myself, because it just didn't make sense. Okay, so me being anti-AEC, I have some tips for you on how to start your business, especially if you want to start in here in Nigeria. Guys, you heard the way I messed up. I don't want to hear that you did the same thing that I did. If I do, don't worry, I'll get you. No, but on a serious note though, I just don't want you guys to go through the heartache of basically stalling for an entire year when you can easily avoid it. First and foremost, register the business name. With time, you're going to have to incorporate your business because you have to pay taxes and things like that here in Nigeria. But the first step is to register the business name, because at least with that, you can open up a bank account, you can take in money, have an inflow, and of course have that separation between your business and personal accounts. Most people use a lawyer to register the business name, just because if you're not versed in the way CAC works, it's going to be an issue. Generally, for business name registration, it shouldn't be anything more than 20K. Like 20K is really pushing it. On average, a lawyer should be charging you 15K. If they charge you anything more, then they're just trying to pull a fast one. I have a business account with FCMB. The lady, my account officer, is super awesome, which I'm going to put her information down below. She's been super helpful and super supportive. I don't know, I can't recommend which bank to go with, but I can say this: if you're in the food or fashion industry, I would definitely recommend GT for a couple of reasons. GT is super supportive of people in the retail, like food retail and fashion retail business. They give loans, and they also have programs and opportunities for people who have GT Bank accounts. So When you're opening a bank account, there are a couple of things that you need. I recommend that you just bring them with you when you decide what bank you'd want to go with, because you can just get it done then and there and know that your account is going to be open the next day. You're going to need a utility bill. If you stay in an apartment or a flat, you can go to your management and ask them to write something up basically saying this person doesn't have any outstanding bills, you can please proceed, or please feel free to proceed with the the process. But if you have a utility bill, you can bring that. If you don't live in an apartment or flat, you can go to the NEPA office. You're going to need a copy of your passport or your driver's license or your national identification card. I have my passport. That's what I use as my identification. You're going to need at least 2 passport photos. I would say go with 4 just in case. In my case, when I was opening an account with FCMB, I only needed 2, but just in case. You're going to need some directors. Generally, for most businesses, there's some sort of directors and people who play a role. You're going to need their signature. You're going to need their petition. There's a form that basically says, yes, we're in support of this account being open. You're also going to need references. Now, references are very challenging. Depending on the bank, they're very particular on the type of references you're allowed to use. So for example, if it's a business account you're opening, which of course is a business account you're opening, you're going to need people who have business accounts as well. It's advised to go with people who have accounts with the bank you're opening with, because when they do the background check, first of all, it takes less time and they're more likely to approve it. If you're selling products, I recommend using an inventory app like Vend. Vend is good because you can keep track of the inventory, keep track of discounts, keep track of how much you've made. And I like it because it has an option for Naira. And I think it also has for Ghana cedis, Rand, and a few other African currencies. If you're going into a service-based industry like photography, videography, personal training, things like that, get a good invoice app. First of all, when you're sending the invoices, or like if you're in the food industry like catering, if you want to go into catering and things like that, invoices are important for you and for that person. When you send them an invoice, there's evidence that you asked them to pay, there's account details on there, there's all of that information on there. And on your end, you're able to keep track of how much you're making. And also, it makes you look more professional. Let's just be honest here. When you're sending an invoice versus how much is it? It's 3,000, ma. I know you understand what I mean. Packaging is everything. So it actually helps, makes you look like you're serious, even if you're just starting out. Like, for example, when I first started out with work for Billie, which is another thing I do social media videos for SMEs. I started with invoices, even though I didn't even have any direction. I didn't know what I was doing, but I said, well, here's my invoice. And I was taken a lot more seriously versus chatting on WhatsApp. Ma, it's 5K. Ma, it's 3K. Mbano, don't do it. Just get invoices. Don't attend every trade fair. I know it's tempting because you're thinking, okay, the more people that see my products, the better. That was another mistake we made. We're constantly paying 25K, 50K, this amount, that amount to promote our products at a trade fair, and we'd only make 2 or 3 sales. There's actually one trade fair we didn't make any sales. So we lost 25K and we didn't make it back or anything back. We didn't even make 1,000 Naira off of that particular trade fair. Of course, we met people, we made good friends, but we ended up coming at a loss. So it's not every trade fair that you need to attend. So for example, if you're in the beauty industry, the Christmas Beauty Affair or the Beauty Affair, they have Beauty Affair Enugu, Beauty Affair Lagos, Beauty Affair Kaduna, Beauty Affair Abuja, Beauty Affair PH, and Beauty Affair Kano. Those definitely go to. If you're spending 60K for a table or for a booth, you're going to get your money back. Especially if you're at the beauty affair for Christmas or those major holidays, I would recommend that. If you're in the fashion industry, GT Fashion Week, please get a stall there, get something there, get a booth there. Now, food is a little different because food always sells, but it's about positioning and it's about packaging. So I would recommend, if you're in the food industry, feel free to take those kinds of risks when it comes to trade fairs, because there's always going to be a need for you. There's no trade fair, even if it's a fashion trade fair, that doesn't have food stalls. Even at the beauty affairs, they have people selling food. So that's a little different. If you're in the food industry or looking to go into the food industry, capitalize on it, but take into consideration if you're into specific if you have like a niche product. For example, if you're into baking or like coffee and candy and things like that, I would say pick and choose your trade fair. But if you're into things like small chops, grills, rice, those kinds of things, then go to basically any and every trade fair. But of course, gauge, have a budget. Recommend do research on the trade fair. If it's a trade fair that holds often, like Mente de Moda, Christmas Beauty Affair, the normal Beauty Affair, generally I would advise you to attend those kinds of trade fairs because it's a very high likelihood that people are going to come, people are going to make purchases there. Also, avoid trade fairs that are on Saturdays if you're in Lagos. If you're in Lagos, I wouldn't recommend attending any trade fair that says they're on a Saturday. Saturday is sleeping in and then getting ready for Owambe. That is just Lagos culture. So generally on a Saturday, you're not going to get as many sales as on a Sunday. If you see a trade fair is on Sunday after church, after service, I would recommend going towards those sort of trade fairs. If you're not in Lagos, I would say examine what the culture is. What is the shopping culture? For example, if you're in a place in Abuja, it's very likely that if you do a trade fair on a Friday or Saturday, people will come because they always claim that nothing is happening there. Why would something happen when people don't like to leave your house? Be open to feedback. This is a challenge. This is human nature. When somebody is critiquing something of yours, critiquing your baby, it hurts. If you're sensitive about what you do or what you have, it is very painful. The proper thing to do is take everything with a grain of salt. Be open to the feedback. If somebody is calling you the B word, telling you that you're a piece of SHIT or saying your products are SHIT and you know they're not, now that's disrespectful. That's not feedback. If someone is like, oh, this product is kind of patchy. If someone says, oh, this cake is kind of not as sweet as it used to be, this, that, and the third, fine. Be open to feedback. Go back to the drawing board and see how you can make those changes. I do not advise telling the customer that they're wrong if they're giving their feedback because it's their opinion. Now, I didn't say that if a customer is calling you the B word, you say thank you, ma. If someone's calling you the B word, block them and move on. But if someone's giving their feedback, take it. If you know they're just being a hater, then take it with a grain of salt. Say thank you for your feedback and keep it pushing. Okay. Customer service is an issue that we have in Nigeria, but I believe that when we make mental note of the changes or the benefits of good customer service, we'll be able to change it and things will get better. I really can't tell you how many times when I'm attending to DMs in BlushKrush that people say, oh my gosh, you guys are so nice. Wow, you guys are so great. When I'm giving basic customer service, like I'm not even going above and beyond. And that's because the standard and expectation is so low. All that thing of hi, smiley face emoji, this, that, stop it. All that thing of waiting for 3 weeks before you respond to a DM or respond to a phone call, stop it. All that thing of telling somebody their product is going to get there in 3 days, but then it takes 3 weeks. See, be transparent, be respectful, treat a customer the way that you want to be treated. If they are being disrespectful to you, you reserve, and I reserve the right to block them. However, just do the right thing. Be respectful. Don't be saying hi. When somebody calls your company, don't say hello. Good afternoon, BlushKrush Cosmetics. You may have buttered up that customer so much that they're like, okay, I only wanted to buy one thing, but I'm gonna buy 3. I've been in situations where I've placed orders online and the people have been so nice and so friendly and so responsive that I have ordered more than I was supposed to, because I know if I have an issue, if I have a challenge or whatever the case may be, they're going to be good to me. They're going to treat me right. So don't underestimate the power of customer service. If you have staff, emphasize training on customer service. So let me give you an example. I wanted to purchase some food, like a bowl of ofada sauce from a company, a well-known food catering business here in Nigeria. The thing was, the customer service was very poor, and it was actually the owner of the business who was attending or running, like responding to messages on WhatsApp and things like that. I was so disappointed. I'm like, yeah, I'll never order from this place again. So as an entrepreneur, be transparent, but don't tell your secrets. So, for example, if the stock is running low on a product, if it's going to take 3 weeks for the products to come into Nigeria for you to sell them, you can mention those things to customers. That's you being honest so that you don't seem like you're cutting corners or not being a straightforward person. Don't give too many details on your experiences, especially to your colleagues, even customers. Don't be giving details. Oh, I ordered this from China, this particular store in China. I ordered this from this particular store in Lagos Island. No. No, you can tell them, oh, the place I order from, the place I get my fabrics from in Ojota, my dear, they're stressful. The place I get my shoes from in Guarimpa is stressful. That's fine. You're just telling your story, but don't be telling everything. I mean, that's just common sense, but I know sometimes it's easy to get carried away. You're just so passionate about the topic or your brand that you just kind of start spilling the tea, so you have to be very careful. If you are in the same industry with someone, they are your colleagues until otherwise noted. Let me repeat that. They are your colleagues until otherwise noted. Don't be going to the market with them. You know, all those market runs and stuff. Don't be saying, yeah, let's go to the market and get this. Oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. I have heard some painful stories of people who worked in the same industry with someone who they thought they trusted. They may have met them while they were in the industry or before, and they have done terrible things, have sabotaged them, because these people were basically taking mental notes about their customers, about their clients, about their demographic, about where they get their source, where they source their products from and stuff like that. And they've stolen customers, they've stolen clients. When it comes to business, everyone in your particular industry is nothing more than a colleague. That sounds horrible, but we have to be realistic here. That's just the truth. There are cases of people who will steal people's staff members. A lady who does souvenirs, her friend is in the same business as her, and I think what happened was she was telling her friend about the client. The client knew her friend now knew the client through someone else. She now messaged the client and said, I can give it to you at a lower rate. And of course, the client went with the lower rate. The client didn't know that they were friends and things like that. She just thought that the lady found her randomly. Okay, so with staff and interns, because staffing is also a challenge that we have in Nigeria at the moment. Okay, teach your interns things, teach your staff things, especially things that you know will benefit them for life. If they decide to move into the industry, or if they just want to, I don't know, be productive citizens of society, teach them, but have those boundaries. For example, if you're into like soap or body cream and things like that, you can give them a general idea of how to put things together and stuff like that. My first job in Nigeria, there was a terrible situation with my boss. She had a production assistant who was basically, and this is the painful part, she was of course kind of weary, so she would use the native word for each of the products. So like, for example, Vishay butter ori, but she speaks Igbo, so she would have like the Igbo word or the Latin word and things like that. Her production assistant wrote down everything, all of her ingredients, and sold it to someone. It's crazy. It's actually really sad. Get inspired, but don't steal. It's very tempting to see an idea from some company that's doing something in the same industry as yours and be like, oh, this is really working for them, let me get on board. If you're stealing their idea, it's going to be obvious that you stole their idea. It's not going to be genuine. So use inspiration and now tailor it to how your own brain works. Just because this person is using blue dogs for their promotion, it doesn't mean tomorrow you go and buy blue dogs for your promotion of your products. You could use dogs, or maybe yellow dogs, maybe a blue bird. I don't know if that makes sense. Remember that you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Start small. I know there's a temptation. Okay, I want to open a store. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to show these people that I can slay them. I want to be the boss. You know, I'm a boss, blah, blah, blah. You don't have anything to prove to anyone. You have a passion. You realize that you can monetize your passion. You realize that you can make an impact in this way with your passion. Let that drive you. Let that move you forward. If you don't open a shop for your food or for your clothing for 10 years, so what? As long as the business is growing, it's thriving, that's what matters the most, okay? So don't put pressure on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Being a CEO is not beans, which means basically being a CEO is not just in the name, it's really in the work. I'm technically not the CEO of BlushKrush Cosmetics. I'm the creative director. We have a CEO. A lot of us like the title, but we don't really want to do the dirty work. Or we glamorize the title, which is kind of a mistake I made. We glamorize the title and not realize that, wow, everything comes down to you as the boss. Making sure that finances are on point, making sure that sales are being made, making sure that salaries are paid. It all comes down to you. So you have to keep that in mind when you're running a business. Entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. I know there's a temptation to step out because your boss is a terrible person or a jackass or whatever. But entrepreneurship is not necessarily for everyone. And you also have to keep in mind, just because an industry is lucrative doesn't mean that's what you're supposed to be doing. So for example, when I first moved to Nigeria, although I wanted to work in the media industry, I was training to be a makeup artist because I saw that people were making good money. It was lucrative. Let me tell you something. In my entire few months of being a makeup artist, I only had one client. So even though I had the entrepreneurial spirit, it was not for being a makeup artist. Mentally prepare. There are going to be some times where you're like, okay, I'm going to have to close this business down because y'all doing too much. Okay, this is taking too much from me. I've paid everyone else. I haven't paid myself this month. This happened, that happened. Oh, the generator exploded. This, that, and the third. There are a lot of factors that go into running a business specifically in Nigeria that are completely different from running businesses in other countries. You have to mentally prepare. If you have a store, even if it's service, you have to keep in mind that, okay, I'm paying a service fee. If it's not service, okay, the gen has to be service. The gen always has to have fuel. This, that, and the third. Do they take light a lot in this area? All of those factors come into it. So be mentally prepared. But also say expect the best. When you have your passion and you're letting God lead you, expect the best. I recommend asking God for strategies. I did not do that. I based everything on my power, my capabilities, what I could do, what I couldn't do, which is how fear and lack of confidence came in. Ask God for strategies. God will tell you how to move. God will tell you who to align with, who to meet up with. God will send customers. But ask God for strategies and meet God halfway. There's a book that I've been reading called Business Secrets from the Bible, which I'm going to show you right here. This is it. I don't know if it's showing. By Rabbi Daniel Lapin. I'm only on chapter 4-ish, or secret 4, but I've been getting a lot of information and some really good tips. I got this in traffic near Bonnie Camp in VI, but I'm sure this can be found on Amazon, and I'm actually going to look for it on Amazon and post the links down below. And I would encourage you to take your time, do your research. If it takes you 3 years to formulate that perfect idea to start your business, fine. If it takes you 2 minutes, fine. But give yourself time, give yourself space. Give yourself an opportunity to make mistakes. Life is about making mistakes. Well, it's not about that, but a part of life is making mistakes and learning from those mistakes and making sure that other people don't make those mistakes, people that come after you. So don't be afraid to mess up. Don't be afraid to fail. It's when you fail and you just stay down that you have a challenge or you have a major issue. So that's all I got for you, beautiful people. I will see you in my next video. I hope you enjoy this. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to be posting the link to BlushKrush down below, and also another project I'm working on. I'm going to be posting the Instagram down below, so please feel free to follow that as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Okay, I actually have somewhere to go. I'm supposed to be running errands for my mom. So, I gotta go. Peace.